Всем здравствуйте, меня зовут Елизавета, я работаю в EF Education First, и сегодня я бы хотела вам представить Ульрике Вегнер. Она наш директор по развитию, и она является специалистом в сфере бизнес-коммуникаций, управления персоналом, и в сфере образования работает более 20 лет. И Ульрике работала во множестве стран, в мультинациональных командах, поэтому сегодня она поделится с вами своим опытом и проведет Critical Thinking Workshop. И также я вам сейчас раздам регистрационные формы, пожалуйста, заполните их и сдайте в конце кому-то из нас. Большое спасибо.
Очень приятно сегодня быть с вами, да? Меня зовут Ульрике, но я не говорю по-русски, чуть-чуть только. Поэтому сейчас мы будем говорить на английском языке. Okay? Is that better? Better for me. Okay? I hope you will understand me. I try to speak a bit slower because I'm not sure how much English you know. It's very difficult if you don't know the audience, like you, how well your English is. But I hope you will understand me, okay? Because today we'll talk about not an easy subject, it's about critical thinking, yeah? So I would like to give you some ideas why we believe you need critical thinking. Have you ever heard about the word before? Anybody? Critical thinking. Do you know what it is? No? Anybody who's heard it, please raise your hand. You need to be very interactive here. I'm not talking alone. This is a class. And in England, for instance, we have a lot of interaction in the classroom, yeah? It's a bit more difficult because we are a large group, but still. So anybody who's heard about critical thinking? Yes? Here, one person has heard about it. What is critical thinking? Do you have any idea?
No, but I heard.
You heard about it. Okay. But you know the word critical and you know the word thinking, right? So everybody of us can think. We all have a brain, yeah? And critical means is that you have to question what you think. That's a very easy translation of the topic which I will discuss today. So I have a few things prepared. We will talk what it is, critical thinking. We will also talk what it enables you to do and why is it useful for you to have it, especially as a student who maybe wants to study at university later, why we believe it is very useful. And then also, I want to bring critical thinking in a more cultural context, that you see it's far more complex than we maybe think. And we'll do a little group exercise as well, so you need to work in groups and probably of 4 people. And I will pick a group after, they have to present for 2 minutes, okay? So you have to listen as well, all right? And at the end, I want to finish just explaining very briefly what the requirements are in the UK or in, say, also in the US to enter universities, what we believe you need to have. And for those of you who want to work maybe later in a larger organization, what nowadays a lot of, especially international employers, want to see in students. And why we believe again that critical thinking is important. But let me start first, what is critical thinking, yeah? I gave you a very easy translation of it, and this is the more, how to say, complex one. So critical thinking is the ability to think, first of all, clearly and rationally, understanding the logical connection between your ideas. So it is taking a topic, any topic out, you think about it, and you bring it in context with something. You need to have obviously a base for that. You need to research your topic. And then at the end, if you are physically able to do your critical thinking correctly, you can do the connection between the 2 ideas. Critical thinking has been the subject of much debate for many centuries, so it's nothing new. The good old Greeks already used it a lot in their philosophy, in their works. If you ever read a book of ancient Greek philosophers, you will find probably how they developed critical thinking at the time. And it's still very, very much updated today and very much a need for the modern world of our working, but also for studying. I will come to that in a minute. Critical thinking might be described as the ability to engage in reflective and independent thinking. Yeah? So that means is reflective, you know what it means? Yeah? You can basically apply what you know to a topic that you discuss. Yeah? Because you have knowledge about it, but you can bring it into context. Again, it's combining various ideas. And critical thinking promotes independent thinking as well. So that means if you read a book, you don't necessarily take everything for granted. You actually question what is in the book. Yeah? Nowadays we can read so many things alone in books, on the internet, you know, we have so many sources where we can get our knowledge from. And sometimes it's a good idea to question what you read. Where is actually the author taking the knowledge from? Is there evidence that what they write is actually right or wrong? So you need to question these things as well. Next one shows, basically, an active learner nowadays is required. Are you all active learners? What is an active learner doing? Or you're not active learners? No? A little bit. Okay. So if you are an active learner, you yourself have ideas how to find information, where to pull information from, how you obtain knowledge. And you not only trust your teachers in the classroom to obtain that for you, you need to be proactive about it. Yeah? Because in the classroom you learn a lot, but not everything. You need to be active about the learning process. And this is also what critical thinking skills imply. They encourage you to be independent thinkers and active learners. So you can pull information from all different sources. And not only passively, as it says here. Yeah, passive means now you listen to me and then you walk out of the room and you never hear about critical thinking again, perhaps. Yeah? What active learning means is you have to question what I'm saying today, and maybe one or two of you will find out later a little bit more about it, because today we have very limited time. And that goes for every subject, for everything, what you discuss, what you talk about in life. Yeah? Very important to be an active learner. You need to be curious about life, you need to be curious and active to obtain knowledge, to obtain information. Critical thinkers rigorously question ideas and assumptions rather than accepting them as face value. So that's important. It's also meaning, is it actually the right thing to say so? And why is the person saying so? So I give you an example. Nowadays we hear a lot about what is in the media might be right or wrong. At least in my country where I live in the UK, we discuss a lot. There are so many newspapers, there are so many information pieces on the internet. But can I actually trust what's on there? Who's writing it? You have to question it again. Do you do that sometimes as well?
Of course.
Or you trust everything blindly? Yeah? You need to struggle for that. This is important, because later in university, every university wants to see active learners, proactive people, who also question certain things. Of course you have to be polite. You can't tell your teacher, I don't believe what you're saying, yeah? But you have to question it, you find out more. Critical thinkers will identify, analyze and solve problems systematically rather than by intuition or instinct. This is also important. So what that means is, if I trust a piece of information just because I feel it's right, that's not what critical thinking is about. Yeah? You need to base your assumptions on what you believe on facts. And that's why it's here saying you need to identify and analyze the situation and work with trustworthy sources. Then you are a critical thinker. And that's a process. You don't wake up one day and suddenly you are a critical thinker. But you learn that during your years in school, probably in university, even more so, to be a critical thinker and to work that way throughout all your life. The critical thinker, what it enables you to do, and that's why it's so useful, you will understand the links between ideas. You will determine the importance and relevance of arguments and ideas, so you can bring it in priority order. You know, if you have, for instance, 3 different arguments about one topic, you need to see what is actually priority here, and where does that person take the information from and the other. You also recognize and build and appraise arguments. So you hear another person saying something, and then you value for yourself the arguments. Not only whether it's right or wrong, but you question it in a way of value. Yeah? And of course, if your neighbor says something very valuable that you believe it is, you also learn to praise the arguments and embrace them in a discussion. In our workshop in a few moments, we will do that, hopefully. Also, critical thinkers can identify inconsistencies and errors in reasoning. There are so many errors when people try to explain how things work. If you are not a critical thinker, you will never find that errors. Instead, you will blindly copy what is already there in an article, in an essay. So again, question things and approach problems in a consistent and systematic way. This is very important for university essays because, as you might have heard, and I don't know if already here in school, academic essays have a certain format. You cannot just write like a letter to your friend. It's obviously very different, yeah? So you have to identify the sources, where you have your knowledge from, etc. And that is exactly what a critical thinker can also then do, thinking systematically. And that is reflected maybe in your piece of writing. And reflect on the justification of their own assumptions, beliefs, and values. Yeah? I'll come to that in a moment, because beliefs and values are very critical when it comes to bring critical thinking in the context of culture. Because we all have different beliefs and values. We are not all the same. Luckily, that would be a problem if everybody would be the same, yeah? All human beings are different, and we have our own culture. So that's why it's also important to bring it into that context. Here you see again what I mean, yeah? A critical thinker can combine all these things for their working, for their studying, for their discussions that they have, for everything in their life. So they can analyze, they can evaluate things, they can give good reasoning for things based on facts, and that helps them to make the right decisions and also to solve problems later. Because you can only solve a problem if you analyze first what is actually the problem. If you don't know what the problem is, you can't solve it. You don't know where to start. And then you might solve it in a very wrong way. Okay? Do you understand so far what I'm saying? Yes? Yes? Of course? Excellent. Fantastic. Okay, I spoke a little bit about feelings already. So it's very important also to understand emotions versus reason. Critical thinking is not when I'm in a discussion, base all my arguments on how I feel. You can of course do that, but that's not what critical thinking is about. A critical thinker has the self-awareness to know the difference between a rational thought based on careful considerations / knowledge and an emotional response based on a personal bias. So that is how I personally feel. There is a huge difference. Fact, personal feeling. And we have that every day in life. Yeah? It's not about how I feel about the situation, it's about the situation as such. Yeah? And everybody can feel differently about a certain situation. Yeah? Today is nice weather, some people like it, some people don't like it. But if you discuss a topic around weather, it actually doesn't, I don't care whether you like it or not. Yeah? It's an emotional feeling, and it's totally separate from the topic that you discuss as a critical thinker. By understanding your own perspective, you can also consider the perspective of others and come to a conclusion based on fact, not feelings. Yeah. So if your neighbor tells you something that is again a feeling, you will not go very far as a team if you discuss a topic, because at the end you only have feelings lined up. Person A thinks like that, person B like that, person C like that, but nobody actually analyzes the real situation. Yeah? And then it's questionable whether you will come to a solution of it. In a work group, for instance. Yeah? If you have to solve something, you need to put your emotions aside. This is often a very difficult task. We are all emotional human beings. Yeah. We all judge first, actually, by emotions. You see something, you smell something, you hear something, it's all emotions, sensitive. Yeah? It's not very objective, but we are all not free of that. And that's also good, because that's what human beings are about. And that's what makes us all very special and very different. However, for critical thinking, it's good not to go by feelings and by your subjective assumptions, how you perceived a situation. Understood? Okay? So, the critical thinking skills nowadays are very important, and I can tell you why. When we asked skills of students, and we often do that, I work a lot with universities, you know, in all parts of the world, they always say, and the teachers in particular, that it's very difficult to teach critical thinking to students, and often they come to university and lack that skill. But if you want to work further in education, if you want to have a further education, and I'm sure most of you will, then you need to gain that skill. So 56% of the teachers in the survey said they were still unable to think critically to students when they started in university. And I'm pretty sure here it's the same. You are probably very good in knowledge, for instance, presenting knowledge that you have gained in school, because you had very good teachers, good handbooks, but you are not able to work in a team, exchanging ideas, coming to solutions. But this is all what it is about later. In a workplace, in university, you have to work as a team with your colleagues. And for that you need critical thinking. So it is indeed very useful, but not only for university, also for many jobs. In Cambridge, where I live, in the UK, we have an exam centre. And I know some here do also English language exams. So in Cambridge is where all the exams are written, basically. Yeah? And there also the people believe that students must be able to think and learn for themselves before they start university. Because actually in university already, it is requested from you to think very critically. So if you have never practiced it, if you never heard about it, it is very difficult to actually pass university degree, for instance, in the UK, with very good results. You might be very good in learning, you know, from a textbook, but you also have to learn your critical thinking way of life. And that is required in many places. And especially nowadays, also in many jobs, because in many jobs nowadays you need to work with your colleagues. Teamwork again. You need to solve problems, whether it's in engineering, whether it's in a chemical plant. It's very likely you will need to work with other people, solving something, you know. And that's why critical thinking is so important. Because it allows you to be, again, an independent learner, to be able to show appropriate use of discipline knowledge, rather than information that you just take out of, you know, the context, that you just learn by heart and then you just repeat what you have learned. This is not critical thinking again. It's about questioning things. And the skills will allow you not accept what you read or hear at face value, but always question the information, ideas, arguments you come across in your studies. Again, do not take for granted what you read, what you hear, or maybe what somebody teaches you. as an independent thinker, you question things and you find your own sources, and then you come up with arguments why the things are right and why you believe that way. Okay? So, when you obviously are a critical thinker, you need to ask the right questions when reading the work of others. Yeah? You don't question how they feel about the piece of work. You need to question why they actually said so, what their work is based on, what are the facts about it. So your writing needs to show you have the ability to weigh up different arguments and perspectives and to use evidence for it. Evidence is always important, not only in scientific work. Yeah? You cannot just say something and then not having the base for it. Yeah? Obviously, a lot of things need to be proven. You need to have evidence or facts that make your arguments much stronger. And then it's also, I mentioned before, even if you wouldn't go to university, in many jobs these days, it's very important for your career. Yeah? For your career, because critical thinking skills might be a deciding factor why an employer takes you on or why they don't. So when I do job interviews, sometimes, you know, I interview students. I do a lot of mock interviews for students who apply for university. It's not always that I ask, oh, what are your grades? Why are you interested in this? I ask them some questions that trigger and where I can see whether the person is a critical thinker. Yeah? And that's also important in many jobs these days. As I say here, job or university career interviewers often ask applicants questions that test their ability to think critically. And actually, it's a good skill to have. For yourself as well, for your life. You have many more years to live, you know. A full life ahead of you. And critical thinking is a good skill to have for general life as well, for any life situation, not only in a job way or in a scientific or university way. Yeah? Applying that on a day-to-day basis is really what you should do. You know the top 10 skills of employers these days, what they want, and that's a worldwide thing. So you have probably heard about the World Economic Forum. They meet every year, yeah? And they talk about economy in the world and how the companies are going, what are the challenges, etc. in all different markets. In Russia, in the States, you know, in the European countries. And here you see, so the top organizations in the world say that in 2020, number 2 critical skill will be critical thinking they want to see in every employee they employ for their company. And that is growing because at the moment, as you see on the right, critical thinking is number 4, now it's already number 2. So that shows you there's a strong tendency that more and more employers want to see that you have that ability. And apart from other things, for instance, complex problem solving or people management skills, it is very important to develop critical thinking skills. So that is my fact that I show you, so that you see I'm not inventing something. That is what is in the books and what was said, and was a survey amongst all these companies and countries where the World Economic Forum did the survey. And typical interview questions at universities, maybe not here, I don't know, I have never done an interview here for a Russian university, but these are typical questions. Of course, they want to see your enthusiasm for a subject, they want to see how engaged you are, how passionate you are about the topic, but they also want to see that you have skills, demonstrate you are a great candidate, and you have skills and qualities they are looking for. And one of those is critical thinking. So they will probably ask you a few questions in that regard. And not only, are you a good student? And the reason for that is, if you apply for something, for instance, you want to go to a very top-rated university, you can assume thousands of other students have the same grades as you have. Even if you think you are a top student, you only have the highest grades, there are 1,000 others who have the same. And this is why you need to bring extra qualities for many things you want to do in your life. For universities in particular, because they want the smartest students. Yeah? Everybody wants smart students. And employers want smart employers as well. You know, that's why you do interviews. You have a selection process. And it's one of the things that I want to do. Obviously, there are other things as well, like passion I mentioned. You need to show that you have actually a relation to what you want to study. Just saying I want to study, I don't know, agriculture, and I have maybe never been in the country, and have never been in the field working, is maybe not so good idea, because then the university will say, well, where's your relation to the topic? Yeah. So that's why, apart from critical thinking, it's also important you are engaged in practice. Yeah? Many people will ask, have you done maybe an internship? So you have an internship currently with our company at the moment, you know, but it's also, many employers will ask, do you have any practical experience in that field? Which always is helpful, even if you want to study and sit in an office later, because it shows you are engaging. And you want to be curious, you want to learn more. So now I've talked a lot, but the last part before we go to our workshop is bringing critical thinking in context with culture, because that's also quite important. We believe nowadays we live in a more complex world. Yeah? We travel, we can buy different products from different countries, they come from elsewhere. But also, we maybe work for an organization that is international. It's not so much only on a local base. It's very international, everything. Culture is everywhere where we go. And culture has a very big impact on our critical thinking. And why is that? What's your idea? Why is the culture having an impact? Do you think culture has an impact on your lives? Of course, you know, everybody should be proud to have a culture. I hope most people have a culture. Your culture is, if you were raised here in Russia, it's very much based on your beliefs, what you have experienced here. Yeah? A person who lives somewhere in Asia, in China, has a totally different cultural environment. But still both, you and the Chinese, will develop critical thinking skills. But if you bring it in a cultural context, it's far more complex, because everybody brings in a very different background. So that's why I'm saying, in that way, the world is getting smaller, because a number of cultural aspects influence the way we interact with people, including our national culture, corporate culture, and various communication styles. So that might be the language we speak, that might be the religion, what we believe in. You know, some people go to church, some people don't. It might be various things that belong to your specific culture where you live. And all these elements influence how we conduct work, how we behave, and how we actually communicate with people, but also how we solve problems. If you for 30 years have solved problems by just telling your neighbor, can you solve it for me, because you're better, you will not probably have developed very good critical thinking skills. You trust your neighbor to solve it for you. But in some cultures, it's quite common, because you have a person for this, a person for this, a person for this. But in nowadays world, they want to see more versatile students, more versatile applicants for jobs. They want to see everybody can solve problems. And even though you come from very different cultures, that you are able to interact with these people, to solve it together. And this is also about what is so important about creating relationships, because you will do that automatically when you work with people. So that's what it's called, ethnocentrism, if you ever have heard this word. It's quite complex, I know. Values and beliefs are learned in a national culture, and they may be unconscious. So you might not even be aware this is part of your culture, this is part of your belief and value. You may not be aware of your own values and beliefs until you are confronted with someone who has a different one. If you always are brought up in the same environment, you never see somebody else from a different cultural context, you will not even realize this is actually just a belief. It's something that I am used to live with, but it's actually not something that maybe the other person thinks the same way. Yeah? And different values lead to different behavior, and that's why it's important that we try to learn and appreciate also these differences. So you need to appreciate what maybe your neighbor is saying and contributing, the same way what your teacher is saying, and that continues throughout your career and your life. So it also has development of listening skills included in that. Okay? So, a little exercise now that we have warmed up. We still have 20 minutes. So this is very important now. You need to work in groups. Okay, everybody walks up. Hello? Are you working on your phone there? You will present. He's not listening. Yes? Are you okay? Do you listen? Yes? Okay, cool. So, we want to do a little group exercise now. I suppose it's best if you work in groups of 4. Yeah? Groups of 4. And you have 5 minutes for the following task. I will later, after the 5 minutes, choose a group, and they need to tell us what they talked about according to the criteria that I put on the slide. Okay? It's your turn. There's a prize as well for that group, if they do it well. Yeah? So you really need to challenge your critical thinking skills. And this is your task. It's a very long list. I will explain. Think of something that has somebody told you. So you need to pick somebody in your group who tells the group something. Could be anything. Could be anything about the day-to-day topic in life, a movie, sports, politics. It doesn't need to be a high-up theme. Yeah? Anything. And then ask yourself the following questions and discuss in your group. Who said the argument? So say, for instance, if you would say, I like this film, then you need to talk in a group. So one person needs to evaluate, okay, you said it, what's your background? Yeah? How come that you say, this is a very good movie, for instance, in this example? What did they say? Analyze the argument. You need to talk about what are you actually talking about. Where did they say it? Was it in public, in private? All these things in critical thinking have an impact on the result, on the analyzing of the problem. When did they say it? Why did they say it the way? And also, how did they say it? Did they say it with a lot of emotion? Were they sad when they said it? Or were they happy? Or, crying maybe even? So emotions also have an impact. Do you understand what the task is? Maybe the teachers do, for sure. Yeah? So you need to work in groups of 4. You need to pick one person who has an argument, a case to bring forward. Then you need to discuss. There's a question. Oh, okay. No? So can you get together in your groups, please? Groups of 4. You need to find a group. Do you want to find a group for yourself? Huh? You need to find a group. Are you a group? Good. But you can also discuss in Russian if you want.
Я люблю, когда проводят сфере. Почему? Потому что когда вы когда нет, потому что не нужно одевать обувь, не нужно одевать непроницаемую одежду, не нужно проводить там положить мальчик карточки, ничего. Нет, тебе сказали, классно, он делает, я не люблю эту погоду, потому что когда я вхожу, то ты должен делать очень много действий для того, чтобы не пропустить. Ты должен привести, ты должен привести такие четкие правила.
Okay, you have 3 more minutes. Do you know what you need? Yes? Okay, so you're ready to okay. Okay, well then, what person needs to have now? You can say this morning there was no traffic. And then you say, oh no, wait a minute. I'm saying no talk about it. Yes, choose anything. You need to develop critical Okay, 1 more minute. You choose one statement. You say something and then you talk about it. You develop your critical thinking Yes, absolutely. It's not about something. No. It can be anything. About the problem, about the weather, about I just want to see all the arguments against or pro and how you discuss it. Yes. In Russian.
Да, что короче, нужно сказать про...
Okay, so I think we are running a little bit out of time, but it's very important. Maybe one group wants to come forward and tell us what they talked about. So any group that wants to say what they talked about? Yes? I hear yes. Who has talked about the topic in your group? You have? No? You have? No? Yes? What was your topic? Okay, come forward. What was your topic? Oh, they? Okay, cool. Yes, please. Welcome. What's your name? Sorry. Roman.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. My son's name is also Roman.
my topic is to be or not to be from from Shakespeare's Hamlet. So who said it? It was said by Hamlet, the main character of novel. Of the play. Yeah, right you are. What did they say? He said to be or not to be. That is a question. Etc. Where did he say it? It was said in public. It was said in dialogue with some other characters. When did he say it? He said it in a dialogue. I also mentioned that. Why did he say that? He said it, as for me, as I remember, because of his thoughts about existing, about being, about that stuff. So how did he say it? He said it proudly, he said it was long monologue about existing, it was astonishing. Yeah?
Great. Well, you are a Shakespeare expert.
I don't think so.
But thank you very much. Okay, we are running out of time, but it's just the idea is then to discuss this in your group and maybe to come up with arguments why Shakespeare said so, why he didn't say it in a different way. That was the exercise, what it was about. Well, I want to tell you, unfortunately I would like to talk more, but you have break time now, so I don't want to steal it from you. I want to encourage you to think critically for your studying, for your schooling, for your university. And of course, if you have any question, please let me know, or let my colleague know. Please also fill in the questionnaire. And then I want to congratulate you for being here today and for understanding all my English. Yeah? Keep on going strong. Thank you.